Hello and welcome to the Bovis and Outdoor Chronicles. My name's Jared.
And my name's Garrett.
We're two brothers who love the outdoors, and we spend most of our time and all of our money on our adventures. From working all week
To
playing all weekend, we find ourselves surviving the week to live on the weekend. Well, as you've noticed, we've been blessed today by Jesus Christ himself, reincarnated. Mr. Scott Volpert. He was on season 1. Now you guys can put a face to the name.
AKA the Red Fox.
The Red Fox. Give us a little spin. Side to side. Let them know why you're the Red Fox. Look at that shit.
I mean, I had to say.
I bet against this Red Fox right here, he probably blends in.
Yeah.
He just looks like a face.
But there is a person there.
There is. There's a person right here.
I just have to say that's a magnificent beard.
The Red Fox, a.k.a. Jesus, a.k.a. Scott. We have yet to see him walk on water, but he's been drinking wine all night, and I didn't buy any wine. I don't know where he got it.
So what do we got in store for us today?
Well, kind of update with what's going on with us. I think we're going to talk about a little bit of conservation easements today going on in the state. And, maybe finishing up with some good stories and what's to come.
I need to start this out with the Red Fox, as you know from last season. He's here on little spurts, right? Mm-hmm. So when he's here, we're obligated is not the word, but we're proactive in doing stuff.
Yes.
So we knew him and his brother were coming, and so I'm like, well, I got to get the little yellow boat running, which...
What do we call that? Do we have a nickname for that one?
It's the name on it is like Ski Goal.
Ski Goal?
It's like a 1970s fiberglass boat with
I
a...
thought you were going to say 1970s action star Seagull.
Seagull. That's pretty good. It's a fiberglass boat with a 70-horse motor on it, so it scoots pretty good. Yeah. And you sit so low in the water, it feels like you're really driving something fun.
And you can corner in it. It just hugs the water. You can put it almost up on one side.
Yeah.
Like an airplane.
It's fun to drive.
Yeah.
But last year we took it out, and I don't know what happened, if the tube caught the water, if we just had too many people on the tube.
Tube caught the water. No one was on the tube.
Oh. And long story short, that caught the water and then ripped the mounting pole out of it that you hooked. It
has kind of like a tripod bolted to the boat that your rope hooks onto, and it keeps it above the motor. So you can pull a skier or pull a tube on it.
Well, that crushed and broke the fiberglass on the two supports.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, Scott's here.
And injured your brother. Yeah. We still hear about that today.
That poor guy.
In broad daylight, you scratched my finger.
Yeah, he was whining about that for a good week.
But
should have left him in the middle of the lake.
Scott and Alex are coming here. Let's get this boat up and running, right?
Yeah, redemption time.
So we took out the old stuff, got wood, got some diamond plate aluminum, some adhesive, glued it all, bolted it all back together. And I think it looks better than it did previously.
The more chrome, the better.
And then even the patch on it, there's a camera there. It was like that, and now it's like this. So it's reinforced quite a bit, right?
You guys put a lot of time and work in it. I don't know what I was doing.
Probably
I was somewhere.
Gardening.
No, I had to do something. I think it was for the wedding.
Hmm.
While you guys were working on
I can't wait for you to get married so I can just quit hearing about that wedding and get back to our lifestyle.
You and me both, man.
But so we finally got this reinforced. It's perfect, and we're like, well,
was that Trumpy? It's perfect. It's the best boat. It is the best fiberglass boat I've ever seen. It's terrific.
Can I continue my story?
It's not from China.
Well, price to performance ratio was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Free boat.
Yeah, we got the boat.
If you don't know, we drove by and it had a free sign on it, and it was just sitting on the curb.
Yeah.
And my mother had drove by before and went, "Oh God, I hope that boat's gone before my boys see it." It wasn't.
The thing about a free boat is it's free till you start fixing it, and then it's no longer a free boat.
But it could have been $1,000 boat.
Yeah,
and you still had to fix it.
Yeah. So, long story short, before I get compared to any other former presidents,
it was terrific.
We're like, oh, let's just see if it fires. It hasn't been out all. Go hook up the battery, get the gas pumped. Nothing. Like, what the heck,
It ran when we parked it.
Yeah. And it was a struggle. We ended up, it was a solenoid on the motor. We didn't
Like
think
a fuel solenoid or what?
the solenoid that talks to the starter.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it engages the starter. Because we
okay.
had power to that solenoid, but we didn't have
it wasn't clicking in to spin
pass.
the motor.
But if we jumped from the battery to the starter, it would spin. So, trip to auto parts store, found an equivalent, hooked it up, nothing. And so we're like, well, maybe something's wrong with it. We took apart the old solenoid, took apart the new solenoid, and it just didn't seem like it was still working right. Meanwhile, Mr. Red Fox over there was supposed to tighten in the connections, like broke half the housing off of it. It's a $40 part. So
You had to buy the fancy one.
yeah, we were in the auto parts store, and it was like, oh, you can buy this one, or this one's like $10 more. It's supposed to be higher quality. So I'm like, yeah, give me that higher. Didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Nope.
Scott still broke it.
By the end of the night, we've just had these pieces of these two solenoids, and they weren't working. They were just in pieces.
All right.
And so we're planning. This was Friday night, so like Saturday is when we want to go. So, all right, well let's go to an auto parts store, get a new one, and then put it in. You know, maybe something was just wrong with that one because we couldn't quite get it to react. Went to the auto parts store, got a new one, put it in, nothing. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm so sick of this boat. Why doesn't it just work? And then Scott's actually like, well, what if we flip the connections? I'm like, it's labeled S for start. That's where it's supposed to be. And what ended up happening was the ground on this different solenoid, the ground actually grounds on the bracket, which we cut off to fit on the motor. So we weren't getting a ground, which is weird because normally you would think it would just ground on the ground, but it didn't. But once we figured that out and then we flipped the connections, fucker like started right fucking turn.
Red Fox, Jeff.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Put a little math.
Oh, lovely.
We get out of town, right? We make it
Yeah.
about an hour away.
And you guys were leaving before me. I was running behind. We had stuff to do. We were getting done for the wedding.
I didn't even know
We
you
didn't
were
think you were
coming.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you I wasn't coming because
Right.
we had so much shit to
We
do.
had a lot of Jared Free party.
Did
Yeah.
you? Well, you see how that happened. You fixing the boat without me, it was a struggle. Go on.
So get about
We'll
an
learn.
hour outside of town, pull over at a gas station, and they're kind of pulled behind. And Scott comes walking over. The bearing went out in the trailer. I'm like, a motherfucker.
He goes like, "You sure?" Then he looks over and it's smoking.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's go to an auto parts store. We go to an auto parts store, and we're like, yeah, we need a bearing pack that fits this, you know.
Mhm.
And they start bringing out like individual bearings. I'm like, why don't you have like a trailer kit pack, you know, with the two bearings and the
Mhm.
no, this is all we have. So I'm like,
No, the best part was so there's two auto parts stores, one on each side of the road.
yeah,
And I go, let's go to this one. I haven't been that one in a while. Well, turns out there's a reason.
yeah, it was trash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we went over to the other one. Oh yeah, I got one right here.
He pulls the whole box out and he's got 4 different sizes. And you, nope, I'll take 2 of them.
Yep. And I bought an extra one because it's like
Yeah.
that sucker goes.
The other side.
Get the bearings out, get the chase out, put it all back together, get it bolt on our way, right? Finally hit the lake after this freaking circus. Back one boat in, offload it, go.
Boat number 1 launched. It's good.
Just
Take a
smooth,
spin around
right?
the lake. Yep, life's good.
The big jet.
Back in the boat that we put all this time into. Where's the keys?
I don't know. I thought they were with you.
Couldn't find the keys. Still can't find the keys. I went back and drove the highway. I don't know where the keys went. So we spent 2 days fixing this boat, getting it ready. The trailer broke down, got it to the lake, and it just sat there.
We still know where.
Still couldn't use
They're
it.
probably on the highway.
They're somewhere.
Drove. Yeah, they're somewhere. So it was a bit of a struggle bus. But I want to thank Scott and his brother for coming out, helping me fix my boat, and then just,
Just
driving
let
it
sit
out.
there.
Yeah. Also fixing the trailer too.
Yeah. And I showed up after that. You guys must have not been there too long after I showed up.
Yeah, because we had to fix the bearing. That killed 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just about to leave Billings, and Mom calls me and goes, "Are you gonna head up there ever?" I go, "Yeah, we got our stuff done early. We're gonna try to go up for a little bit." Well, they're stuck in Roundup. Their bearing went out, and I'm like, "I'm gonna catch them." You know, it's gonna.
I
take
wish
us
I
some
knew you were
time.
coming up because I've been like, go to my house, get the keys for the boat.
Yeah, where?
But
Where-
yeah, I thought they would just be like on the driveway or
But
something.
we'd at least wasted another hour of his time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
surprise.
So I got up there, and one boat's not in. I thought, oh shit, they just got here. But you must have been.
Yeah,
No, we
sitting
left the
for a
other one.
little
We
bit.
just left it on the ramp for a couple hours.
yeah,
Okay, so you were up there for a little bit.
yeah.
We hit a major rainstorm coming through.
Weird.
We
'cause-
saw that because we looked at it and went, "Oh, that looks like fun."
It was fun to drive through the middle of, but it was like 89 degrees, and we hit that rain, and it was 62 when we popped
nice,
out.
nice, cool.
Yeah, it cooled stuff off, which was good. Real good.
I don't know. It goes with the struggle with you have all these toys and it's a lot to maintenance them.
They start to own you.
Yeah.
We're teetering on that point where we don't have enough money to buy new or stuff that's not kind of like fucked up. So the stuff we have takes like a constant trickle of maintenance.
Yeah.
And all stuff really does, but our stuff's kind of
Once it gets on that older side, the speed in which that maintenance is required
no.
is higher.
You say that. I got a brand new trailer.
Yeah, that's true.
I got
That's
a
true.
24 wheeler and a 23 wheeler, and I'm still working on them.
Yeah.
It's only new for like a week
Yeah.
when your warranty's
That's
still
why
good.
I never buy new
Yeah.
because
I can't afford
You
it.
think you're buying just, I got three or 4 years of doing nothing to this thing.
both the years I think you had to work on like immediately.
Your four-wheeler.
Yeah, I bought
Four-wheelers.
2 4-wheelers. Yeah,
You're
One-
23.
had electrical issue. They didn't click the connector on all the way.
Yep.
The 24, they didn't give me a radiator cap when I bought it.
So
I mean, I just admire Scott. I mean, we met him. He was in a little car. Now he's got an enclosed trailer with 2-wheelers
in the truck.
and a truck.
Yeah. Totally changed your life around.
Yeah, I used to have money in my bank account.
You should have seen this guy when we first met him too. He was about 5'2", maybe $180. Now he drives a truck. He can grow a beard now.
I've been
A lot.
5'2" since probably like 9 years old.
But yeah, that's just kind of the struggle with it. And there's a balance there. And right now I think we're just a little off balance. There's a lot of stuff we got.
But we broke the golden rule, though. When going to the lake, every truck brings a boat.
Did one truck not?
One truck did not.
That Sierras?
Joe didn't bring a boat.
Who pulled the big boat?
Joe brought the boat. Sierra didn't bring a boat.
That's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
That's
Well-
what happened.
Shame on Sierra.
then we bring one tube.
Yeah, because every year we bring all these tubes to
Tubes.
go, and we just use one. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's a waste.
The rest sit on the bank and
So I-
slowly deflate.
Pick the best one. And I'm like, let's go with this. And it made it like half a lap on the lake, and it was like flat. So
I
like,
had a hole in it.
yeah. Like riding, there normally like when you're tubing, there's a bounce, right?
Yeah.
There was not a bounce. It was just like,
No cushion.
No.
There's no cushion, and you're back there just holding on. You feel it through your whole body.
So with the
Yeah.
jet boat, you don't really get that big wake when you're up on plane.
Yeah.
And it's not a smooth wake either.
So I figured out if I go a little bit off plane and do circles, really get it chopped up half on plane
And then pull them off.
and then hit it and cross that circle.
That's the only way to do it.
There was one that I hit that I was driving a boat and it hurt my nuts. I mean,
yeah.
and then Scott said the same thing. He was on the tube. He's like,
Oh, you're on the tube, but
You-
you feel it through your nuts. Because there's no air in there. It could be a 1/4-inch wave, but you feel it.
yeah, it was,
That's why he was walking weird when I showed up.
yeah.
My nuts are hurting right now. Just thinking about it.
That's pretty
But
good.
we patched that tube. We're getting ready
Mhm.
for our 4th of July bachelor party trip.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. We'll probably talk about that.
So we're gonna see if you can
After
get
some
tubing
more.
behind a raft.
So we're going to float the river for 4 days, 4.5 days, something like that, depending on when we get there. And it'll be fun. We got our cataract out. It's all patched up, ready to go, holding air for the first time in probably 5 years.
Holding there well.
Holding air well. Like you pump it up, you come out in the morning, it's still pumped up.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. Redid the winch system on there, fixed the front seat, changed the anchor mounts. We added a little 2-horse two-stroke motor to it.
From, what is it, like a 79 or something?
Yeah, 1979. Just a little prop. Because on that river, if the wind's blowing the wrong way and you're in an inflatable, you're not getting downriver.
Yeah, you're just hanging out.
You're
for
just-
a
You
while.
really like those sailboats that have the little diesel engine just in case.
Yeah, that's exactly what we are. Just in case we got to kick it in and go. So it'll be fun. We'll be floating and camping and fishing and
Yeah, and hopefully we can
You know.
provide some more content for you guys of that trip, kind of
mm-hmm.
exploring the nature overnight on the river.
kind of like a Huckleberry Finn type adventure, just
Yeah.
floating down. So I'm pretty excited about it. Something I don't think we've ever done. I've always wanted to do it, but we've never. Well, when we were little, we floated
Did
the
the
river.
Smith.
We did the Smith River.
And then I did one in college, floated to Missouri, similar float.
Yeah, I guess you
But
did.
I mean, that's school trip, a little bit different,
different.
you know.
Yeah, but I don't think we've ever done a multiple besides that Smith. But as adults, I don't think we've ever. It's something we've always talked about
Right.
doing.
Let's do this. And
Let's
then
do this. So
it's just a lot to plan and coordinate and stuff. But
yeah, once you're on the river, you're on the river.
yeah,
That's the thing.
What you have is what you have.
You know, you could go backpacking for 4 days. Something happens, you walk out at day 2.
right.
Something happens out there, you either got to float.
You fire up the little 2-horse and you send her to town.
Send it. You have everybody on the side paddling,
There you
little
go.
horse doing as much as it could.
But well, I guess the point I'm trying to get at is we've been busy with our
very busy.
ventures, and not necessarily just our ventures, but getting our stuff maintenance to where we can go on these adventures.
Yeah, so we're taking donations.
Sponsor us.
Sponsor us.
We will put your name in the patch.
Yeah, so though this month is going to be pretty hectic.
Right. I mean, we have this trip and then
Mhm.
a week of nothing and then your wedding week.
Yeah, but that week of nothing for you, I am going backpacking in the Beartooth with Holly's family.
Oh, you
Lake.
are?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't
Yep.
get the invite. That's weird. I'll
Yeah.
have to check my mail again.
Well,
No,
no,
we got to plan something.
I don't know if you want the invite because here's how I was told about it. Hey, my mom and I are going backpacking to this lake. Blah blah blah. I'm like, cool, that'll be fun. You know, have some you and mom time. And then all of a sudden, I was invited, and I'm like, I thought it was a girls' trip or whatever. And they're like, yeah. We think you should pack the camp up with us. So I'm literally going on this trip to be the mule.
yeah.
And they roped her little brother and her stepdad in as well. So the 3 guys going are packing in a camp, and the girls are walking up in running shoes, I'm guessing. It's
I'm sure they'll have a little can of bug spray.
It sounds like they got
So-
it figured out.
And we'll be up there. I've never been up there to the lake they're going to, so there's some waterfalls up there. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty
Um,
exciting. And going along with your mantra where you wanted to do more backcountry stuff.
Yeah, I want to get in the back country more, but God, it's hard because there's a lot of stuff I want to do.
It's hard to find that balance.
Yeah,
And then even the part of the equation is maintenance on all your gear, making sure you have all that. That takes a huge time chunk. And then it's like, well, my maintenance in this gear so I can go on this adventure,
mhm.
or I've been doing this, so let's just do this because I don't have to fix the boat. I don't have to work on
Yeah.
the four-wheeler.
Well, it's when you switch too often. That's the issue, right? If you took the
Right.
boat out every weekend, you'd be great.
Right.
But so you switch from
It's that-
backpacking to boat to camping to
Well, you put how
four-wheelers.
much time in that yellow boat? You did
Yeah.
leave the keys, but when are you going to use that yellow boat again?
Probably never.
Probably
don't know.
next year.
Yeah.
You know
I don't know. Might take a trip out. Maybe when you're backpacking, I'll go drive around a lake.
how you going to get rekeyed?
According
if you know
to
any
Alex,
locksmiths,
according to Alex, he does know a screwdriver that would fit.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot this next month, and I keep stressing this. You do have a L permit this year.
Yep.
And we do need to get on that.
I have to tell you, it's kind of embarrassing, but my wife's a runner, right? And I'm like, yeah, let's go around the neighborhood. I'll run. You're going to run? And she was like so excited.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my neighborhood has some hills, right? And so we're going up, like, first, immediate right, boom, going up a hill. And like, oh, this isn't bad. And she's like, you're going so fast. I got to the top of that hill. I couldn't freaking breathe. I don't know how to pace myself.
Oh, you got to go where I go. You go down by the river.
In a van.
Down
Van's optional, but it's flat. and then you can walk and run and do whatever you want.
I will say, when we hiked with you, you guys can't tell. Jesus here. He's got a long ass torso. He's tall and short legs.
Short legs.
So Garrett and I are different. We got smaller torso and long legs. When we were backpacking up looking for goats, Garrett and I would just be walking down. Well, we outstride these guys. So they would take off running, and this was after like 10 miles of hiking. They would take off running, run down in front of us a ways, maybe 100, 150 yards, and then start walking and hiking again. And then Garrett and I, just our normal strides, we would catch them, and then they'd take off running again.
I think it has to do with the longer torso. Lungs must be
be
bigger,
it.
more,
You got big
more
lungs.
developed.
So in our family, you either have short legs, long torso, or short torso, long legs, and you get to be 6'2". If you're Alex, you get long legs, long torso, and you're 6'4".
He is a
Makes
big
sense.
kid. That kid. I offered him a beer when he was 13 because he looks like a grown-ass man. Just so our viewers know, like, the scale of this kid.
You used to be like me, going to go buy beer at 21, and they don't card you, and you're like, "Come on, like I actually have the ID this time."
Please let me take it out. I've said that a time or two.
The biggest mistake was... That's funny. Yeah, so it's going to be a busy summer. It'll be a busy summer.
Yeah, this just gets you through July. That's not even August or really
Yeah.
September.
No, we got... And September's going to... If your dog heals up, hopefully by
Yep.
upland. Well, and he probably could do upland right now.
I still don't want to limit him. He works for Upland.
He works.
Yeah, like really working there, really putting a lot. I would want to be 100% healed, at least no opening before I
I
really
guess it's
ran
different than
through.
waterfowl. Like, you're not worried about it getting wet walking through sagebrush with him.
Yeah, but
There's all that.
limited activity till that heals.
I get it. But yeah, September's going to roll around and it's going to hit so fast. And you
Yeah.
haven't been shooting your bow. We need
No.
to get shooting your bow, or
Yep.
we're behind the 8 ball. And it just seems like life keeps getting busy.
How about instead of your wedding party for 3 days, how about let's just go shoot a bow? And then you show up at your wedding about like 30
I
minutes
think
before.
you can shoot a bow. I don't have a bow to shoot. I got to buy a bow.
Did you try buying a bow?
I was contemplating it.
No, did you order something on eBay?
Ordered one on eBay.
Yeah.
Took it to the bow
for
shop. It was
last
bent.
year. It was
Yeah.
bent as well, so I sent it back.
I don't think you need a bow. I think you just got to practice the old rangefinder eye.
You're probably right.
You got a rangefinder.
You're probably right. I mean, here's my issue. I think you're going to puss out on me. You hold the tag, and when you puss out, what do?
You push hard.
Like, I can't shoot anything. I don't have tag for that
You
reason.
find it and you say, "Hey, I found it," and then I'll wake up, stretch in the morning.
We'll see. I'll be a little disappointed if you
I-
don't get a bull.
There's pressure with that elk tag, right?
Yep.
Because I drew it, and that's why I'm like, yeah, let's go for a run. And the next 2 days, I'm like still tasting my lungs. So I'm definitely not in the best shape of my life.
Yeah, but there's different type of shape.
Yeah, I agree, but I definitely think I need to increase the cardio.
Like, I think I could probably outwalk Sierra.
I don't know.
Loaded.
Oh,
Loaded.
loaded, yes.
Yeah, well, you're.
That's
how
what I mean
tall?
by
Yeah.
loaded, because that's what I do. I walk miles and miles and miles with quite a bit of weight on my back.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
Where she'll beat me in a fucking race.
Well,
with
she'll
her-
beat you long distance if you're not carrying weight, but just proportionally, her body size is so much smaller than yours.
in a lot less calories burned to move.
Proportionately, if you took your weight compared to how much weight you're carrying and her weight, made it the same proportion,
That would be interesting.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, the same weight she couldn't.
Right.
Yeah, but if it was proportional weight, she probably could beat me.
But that doesn't matter. A lot of stuff you take weighs the same whether you weigh your
Right,
sleeping bag,
That's
all
true.
your
That's
cooking
true.
setup.
It's
Everything.
not like she can have a 30% smaller water bottle or 30% smaller sleeping bag, Yeah, there's some things. But anyways, yeah.
But it's a hard balance between all the activities that we do. And in where we live, we have the opportunity to do a vast range of different activities.
Yeah.
And with that, it's always a balance between too much state control, not enough state control. just trying to find the right amount of state like rules for even like FWP. You know, sometimes I think that they overreach. Sometimes I feel like they don't do enough.
It's a constant balance.
And then we were talking about before air. We were talking about some conservation easements
yeah.
that may open more acreage. So could you dive in on those a little bit?
Yeah, so the plan is to lease out on conservation leases 500,000 acres in eastern Montana prairie land.
And so is that previously private land then?
Yeah, it's all private land. That's what the leases are.
Okay.
So the government is going to pay these private landowners to put their land in a conservation easement. And usually what that means is you can't disrupt the prairie grasses. You can't disrupt the sagebrush. You're supposed to let it just be natural. And the government pays you a chunk of money to do that. There's some strings attached usually. Like you can't mow all that stuff down, till it up, and plant like asparagus.
have to keep it the natural prairie.
Yeah, they're trying to
ecosystem.
conserve the prairie. This is a prairie conservation
But as
lease.
far as like hunting and stuff, does that open that land to recreation?
I don't know exactly what's written in them, but I do know they state that the three main goals, and they're listed in this order, and I think for a reason. And the goals are to, I have them written here, support agriculture operations is the first thing they say. So obviously you don't want to sign a lease with the government and then you can't make money off that land
Right.
anymore, right?
Unless it's a hefty paycheck from the government.
And it's kind of a hefty paycheck, but it's how you look at it. So the second thing they say is public hunting, and the last thing they say is other forms of wildlife recreation. So I'm sure you could go bird watching if you wanted, or wildlife photography, but they do say public hunting, and that's kind of the big one for me.
I think saying that in their mission goals, I think that garners a lot of support
Yes,
because the sportsman's community is pretty large.
it is. And 500,000 acres locked out of hunting, and the government's paying for it. It's like, I don't want any kind of wildlife conservation supporting that. You just locked out,
Right.
So the fact that they're allowing public hunting on it is definitely a plus.
And this is a little bit different type of lease, right? Because, I mean, typically a lot of deals are done where the state buys like a permanent easement or something to access public land.
A permanent lease is what it is, like a permanent conservation lease.
Right.
And so that's some of the controversy here is these are quite expensive, and they're only termed leases. They're 40-year conservation leases. So after 40 years, that lease is gone. So they could lock it totally down or
Lock
do
it
whatever
back
they
down.
want. Yeah, and the reason one of the ranches in it, I think, is about 1,200 acres, almost, a little under 1,200 acres. Excuse me, a little under 12,000 acres.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
Bigger chunk.
Yeah.
And they're paying $1.4 million for a 40-year lease.
Oh, dang.
So saying that landowner is not making money on it, $1.4 million is a lot of money.
Right.
But that's for 40 years. So divide that by 40. Still a lot of money.
Right.
Like, hey, call me up, Fishing Game. I got 2.5
Yeah.
acres. We'll
Let
get
me
into
know.
conservation.
Well,
But it's still better for the landowner because the money's up front.
yeah, it's
right.
up front. Yep.
The cost to borrow money, if someone promised you money in 40 years, it's really not worth anything.
Yeah, agreed.
And then even, I just like the creative solutions, right? Because the block management program has been a huge success in Montana,
Mm-hmm.
where it allows landowners to make something and encourage hunters to go on their land because they make more. So it's just interesting, this other perspective where, okay, we're helping landowners out, but also we're increasing the public availability.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of conservation programs out there that don't include hunting access.
Yes.
Right.
CRP, a lot of the stuff NRCS does is they have a specific goal. They're trying to help some species out, and they hand the money out, but you have no access to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They put ponds in, they do habitat work, but this way the money's going to hunters as well because they're really paying for it.
Yeah, and that brings me to who's all paying for this. Where's the money come from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funded by Habitat Montana, Migratory Bird Wetland Program, and Pittman and Robinson Fund. And the Pittman and Robinson Fund is taxes for firearms, archery, I think fishing supplies, like kind of
ammo,
outdoorsy stuff. That tax money gets funneled to state agencies to get spent. So this is a good way to spend it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and I there was a lot of people on the fence about it because normally these leases are forever.
Long term.
Forever, right? And this is only 40 years. But a 40-year lease is better than no lease.
Right. And I think that might be more attractive for the landowner.
Yeah.
'Cause, like-
yeah, they're not tied in.
Right.
But-
Even like passing it on to their kids, you know, it could change if they want to do something differently.
Well,
Because you're in your 50s, right? You make a 40-year decision. You go, that's for me.
mhm.
Right.
That's for my lifetime. But my kids and my grandkids can do something else if they want that.
Yeah. Or I wouldn't be that way. I'd be like,
Lock it
"My-
down.
Lock it down. My grandbabies are never selling this place. Yeah. But I mean, it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. The Fish and Game Commission did vote unanimously for this first round. This first round is not the 500,000. That's the goal they're trying to reach. The first round was only 52,000. Only 52,000. That's still a lot of acreage. So another kind of benefit to it was it kind of keeps, I don't want to say endangered species, but species that are of note, that are close to going on the endangered list.
Species of concern.
Species of concern. Yeah, I think that's a technical term. It keeps them off that list, or at least it keeps the state of Montana in control of those species in that area.
Because we have all this habitat now that we're saying, okay, well, this
Exactly.
isn't going to be impacted.
Yes, exactly. So it's a conservation lease. This prairie butterfly is going to do just fine.
Prairie butterfly.
Yeah, if you want to come catch some prairie butterflies, it's fine because there's a healthy population here.
But for industry like oil and gas, it's a lot better to put the money on the front end and avoid these species being listed than to have them get listed and go, oh, shoot, we have to do all this work now to get them
Jump
unlisted
through all these
Yep.
hoops.
so we can do what we want to do.
It's just weird, I guess, the time that we're living in. It used to be in the state of Montana, it was kind of common where you just go ask someone, hey, can I hunt? And it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And we've transitioned away from that to where it's very restricted and outfitted. And so it's nice to see like conservation groups like this where maybe their goal isn't public access, but they allow public access.
To get that money.
And we live in a time that's no longer like individual. You know, you're starting to see larger and larger movements of people buying up land for certain causes. I mean, it's a lot of money for this land to be
Yeah.
eased.
What sucks is, like you or I, let's say we go, you know what? I want to raise cattle. I cannot buy land cheap enough using the bank
Right,
to put cattle on it and make any money. It's just not possible.
right.
Like I can't. The land does not produce
Well,
that.
Real estate in the state's gone crazy. So
Yeah.
people don't buy land to make money off the land. They buy it
To hold
'cause
it.
it's real estate.
Yeah.
You have to go to like the Dakotas or Nebraska or Kansas to find land that's actually valued on its economic productivity.
Yeah. Which sucks up here because you lose a lot of family ranches to that.
Yeah.
A lot of family ranches.
And there's a lot of ranches that generational change, you know, that's when they either go out of the family or they're bought up by a different. I just feel like there was a lot of small family ranches and now they're kind of getting bought up by these larger ranches.
Or the economics have changed. You have 3,000 acres. Well, it's just not enough to support a family anymore,
No, it's not.
Right.
especially with healthcare and everything. So you need 6,000 acres. Well, you can't go buy the other 3,000.
And then you try leasing it, and it just doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, that's really the loss of the American farmer, the American rancher. It's going to
Right.
these billionaire like dude ranches, right? Or a billionaire who made tons of money in some other sector comes and buys a huge ranch, and then pays a few ranch hands to run, you know, tens of thousands of acres, and you know can turn a profit that way. But it squishes the little guy next to him.
But the dumb thing is, ranches aren't. The stock market's way more profitable than a ranch is.
Right.
They're
As far as
talking-
like
they're
time
talking-
and work and
Yeah, if you go to Iowa and you're buying farmland, they're talking 2 to 3% rate of return per year. Well, that's terrible. You can get that money from a bank in a
Yeah.
CD.
right.
Yep. The only thing that's different is you'll always have that land. Oh, unless you sell the land. Like, I don't know if land, if bought in the right circumstances, is ever really a bad investment. It's a bad investment if you can't afford to pay,
Right.
you know,
Pay your financing on it.
pay
Pay
your
the
financing
taxes,
on it
yeah.
and pay your taxes on it. But as far as when you have that much money, there's only so many places you can stash it, you know, with tax benefits and a whole
And
bunch of
A
different
way
stuff.
to do that is with land. Very easy.
Agricultural land.
Yeah, but it just shows kind of that tide turning in Montana, particularly, where it's not necessarily the family ranches are getting bought out by bigger entities, whether it's a conservation lease that's being put in, or even American Prairie Reserve, you know, where they're no longer the little guy; it's this mega corporation coming in.
And buying up all that acreage.
Mhm.
So this one ranch, the largest one for almost 12,000 acres, it's 1.4 million. Not only is that good for the rancher, but that also helps keep that ranch in
Functioning.
family hands. Right? That's 1.4 million now that family can use now. That can keep that family on that ranch now. You know?
Because when you think about it, was it over 1 million, over 12,000 acres? That's not a lot.
No, not compared to some of
Not
the ranches
compared
out
to,
here.
not compared to like an outright purchase.
Right.
Yep. And so you look at, you brought up the American Prairie Reserve. Now they just purchased, trying to think now, I was reading about it today, I think about 12,000 more acres. And now they're up to 475,000 acres purchased in Montana.
Chunk of land.
That's a chunk of land, and they claim it's all for this good stuff, and I'm
Skeptical, right?
I am skeptical. They claim it's for public access. I've talked to a lot of the locals up there that do not work for the Prairie Reserve, so they're kind of jaded, but the people who work for the Prairie Reserve are also jaded. But a ranch just sold up there, 12,000 acres. American Prairie Reserve is going to buy it and do nothing with that land. No more feed is bought in town. No more products are bought in
Right.
town. And it's killing
The small
That-
economy.
that
Right.
north
That-
central Montana economy.
That ranch probably supported 3 or 4 families
Yeah,
that went
maybe.
into town and or paid for things and whatnot, and now it's
Yeah,
not.
had to buy food. Now it's not. And one thing they say is, oh, they allow public on there, blah, blah, blah. And then if you read towards the end, the reserve says, well, we just purchased this land. We're not allowing the public on right now because we have to kind of map out and figure out what this land is. How many people buy 12,000 acres without knowing
Not
what the
knowing what it
land
is.
is?
Yeah.
Right? Or at least driving through it once or twice. And that land up there, it's not like a maze.
Right.
On 12,000 acres up there, you can buy it and look to the other side of your 12,000 acres.
But nothing against Eastern Montana. It's kind of all the same. So if you already
Yeah.
own 12,000 acres and you buy the next 12,000 next to you,
Probably gonna get the same.
you're probably
stuff.
going to get the same stuff.
Yeah. So
Just skeptical. Big corporation. Even I think
Mm.
it's listed as a nonprofit, but
yeah,
coming into Montana and then having
it's no
that,
Montana money.
Yeah.
It's all
Skeptical.
like
Right now,
overseas money, back
they're-
east money.
right now, their values align with us, right? I mean, they allow
Yes,
hunting,
because they're trying to grow and be
but
good
at what
to it.
point is the carpet
they
going to
go,
be pulled out?
No, we don't. We're going to
But-
make another Yellowstone National Park up here
Yeah.
and charge people to come in. And you're not
Yeah.
allowed to shoot the
Private
buffalo
land.
we have.
Hmm.
It's private land. What's going to stop them?
Right.
But it'll be interesting because where I'm at on the East Coast, there's this data center boom going on right now, and the counties have figured out how to turn it into a cash cow because they're taxing the heck out of them. They're saying, you can build them here, that's fine, but we're going to tax the heck out of you, and we're going to take that money and invest in our citizens. So it'll be interesting to see. I know in Nebraska with the Crane Foundation, they're fighting them right now with the property taxes. Be interesting
The
to see
Sandhill Crane Foundation.
It'll be interesting to see, the Sandhill Cranes. It'll be interesting to see if the counties can, yes, you own all this land, but guess what? You need to be paying taxes like everybody else. and paying for schools and hospitals and all that stuff.
And that might make the Prairie Reserve a little bit more palatable for me, is if it's like,
Giving
hey,
money back in the community.
yeah, you've removed this much money out of the economy. This is how much you got to put back in, so we can continue to keep our roads up and build our schools. And
Because like the military already does that. If you have a base in your county, they pay in lieu of taxes. They pay money to local governments to pay for the fire departments and everything to keep everything running. Because otherwise, these counties wouldn't be able to afford it.
mm-hmm.
Makes sense. But it's just that shift from the family farmer to family ranches to larger easements to larger companies. I mean, the landscape's changing on the scale.
Well, and so every piece of land can produce so much profit or food, or it's really a food thing, right? You're not farming I don't know,
Prairie butterflies, I thought.
Prairie
Well,
butterflies.
I would argue
right?
farming's energy game now with ethanol.
Yeah, agreed. But there's parts of the country where it's a lot more price dense. Like you can grow a lot, or you can
Right.
feed a lot of cattle on a little bit of land. Montana's not like that. You need a lot of land for those
To
cattle.
scrape by, yeah.
Yeah, because it's just not a lush paradise.
But it's short grass prairie. There's just not much there.
Exactly.
And you get dry years.
you get a dry year, what do? You buy hay from Canada.
Yep.
Or hay from Nebraska, or hay from the Dakotas. Wyoming and the Dakotas are all kind of in the same boat with the short grass prairie issues. But this transition that you're seeing where these corporations, they're the ones that have enough money to come in, buy a big enough chunk to where they can have that cattle, right? And the taxes are going up. So the local farmer, the local rancher, can't afford to just pay for the land that he owns. So he's got to sell, and the only people buying are the large corporations.
Yep.
It's a no-win game for someone like you or I or Scott. Up here, at least. Like Scott said, other parts of the country, land is based more on what you can produce on it. Montana right now is just like, I want a chunk of
Real
Montana.
estate
It's
haven.
Now you are seeing a lot of people starting to realize that own land, because that 60 to 80-year-old generation owns most of the land right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you're starting to see, wait, my grandkid's a little bit interested, and they're starting to help them out with financing. I'll be the bank. You just write me a payment, 0% interest. I still get the money, but you're not paying interest to the bank, so the bank's not getting all the money. So you're starting to see that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what has to happen. Otherwise, you lose it.
Right.
And you lose it to a billionaire making his private ranch and locking everybody else out, or you're losing it to a corporation making a private ranch, locking everybody else out. It's just a no-win situation. And that's, we talked good about these leases, but that's one thing that later on in the article, it talks about how they allow some hunting determined by the Fish Wildlife or the Fish Parks and Wildlife Commission during commission hunting season. So like you could have this 12,000 acre and they're like, all you can shoot is sharp-tailed grouse here. And there might be huge mule deer, pronghorn and all that. And at least you're getting to shoot sage grouse. Something. So I'm not trying to hit a gift horse in the mouth, but recognizing that I feel like there's strings attached to everything, and there's this loss of ability to use the land that's here.
Because all hunters really want is they just want the ability to use the surface rights. They want to be able to walk on the piece of property and hunt. They really don't care about the mineral rights.
No.
They don't care about the grass, the cattle out there. So it kind of makes sense for them to pay for a lease because they're only taking that little bit. They don't want to pay for the upkeep of everything.
Yeah.
Because your money does go a lot further with a lease versus outright purchase.
And there's some countries in Europe, and not that I like European countries a lot, but there is some countries in Europe.
Did you have to put that disclaimer in there?
Well, I don't want to be like the hippie guy that's like, Europe's the way to go, man. Communism, Marxist.
All right.
Yeah. But where they have landowners that own tons of land, right? Tons of undeveloped land, and you're allowed to walk on it. Like you can't walk in their yard, but if they own 100,000 acres of just next to the mountains. You can walk on their land and go
That's
to the
how like
mountains.
the Norwegian countries
Yeah,
are.
yep, that's what I'm
Mhm.
talking about.
Whereas, yeah, as long as it's not like somebody's built up house area,
Mm-hmm.
you have it's assumed you have the right to just go camp and hunt and do whatever, as long as you're not making a mess.
Yeah,
You're assumed to do whatever you want. Yeah.
and people ruin that here.
Yeah.
People disrespecting land, disrespecting property, and greedy landowners. You know.
You see that every time the Forest Service cuts down on dispersed camping or they put rules in about target practice for shooting, somebody ruined it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, somebody ruined it, but somebody also tattled or complained.
Yeah.
Like if I was on National Forest and I wanted to shoot a couple of pop cans, yeah, that's fine. And someone that a little ways over is like, I want to play my cornhole game without the sound of gunshots. They write a letter or call National Forest, and all of a sudden their signs up, no shooting on National Forest in this area, you know, and it's like, ugh.
I mean, it's a balance. All those public agencies have a hard time of balancing public outcry and then
Impossible
resources.
job
Yeah.
because you can't keep
Everyone's
anybody.
going to be mad, right?
I honestly think they should call me, run all their
Call you.
ideas by me, and
But
then at
you
least I
know.
would be happy.
But a lot of it's like four-wheeler riding, right? The
Mhm.
hikers, people that hike don't want to hear the noise and stuff, which is fine.
Right.
But it's all these competing interests fighting over a limited resource.
Yes,
Right.
and it's
Even
getting
in-
more limited.
This city of Helena, there's like a huge anti-mountain bike community. These are our hiking trails, and you guys are ruining them with your mountain bike
Mhm.
erosion and stuff. And it's like if you change that scale, mountain bikers say the same thing about four-wheelers and
Oh yeah,
dirt bikes and stuff. So there's all these little niches, and they all kind of fight with each
Because
other.
mountain bikers do not like wilderness protected areas.
because you can't mountain
You
bike.
can't
in 'em.
mountain bike in them.
Mhm.
But
And-
you can hike, you can take horses, you can do whatever you want, but you can't take a bike. And they don't like that.
Well, and
The
I
first
don't
time
know
I
if
heard
like
that,
yeah, I
I
was
was
like, that's fucking
A bike,
phony.
really?
Yeah, this is a wilderness area. But
Mm.
if I was rich enough to have or rent horses, I can get in here.
They'd be like, get those mountain bikes out of here.
Have you ever seen what horses do to a muddy trail?
Yeah.
Yeah, so much better
Yeah.
than a bike.
But they had a bike invented back when they had horses.
Yeah, there you go. We got to predate the bike. Maybe you can use a bike, but it's have to have the big wheel and the little wheel in the back.
Something interesting I found is with a lot of public land is what you're allowed to do on it today, it's all historical. It's not based upon what's the best use of that land. So if you go to an area where there's a lot of logging roads, it's because in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, they did a lot of logging. Or there were mines back there and they built these roads.
Yes.
Right.
And you go to another piece of land where there was no mineral wealth and the trees weren't worth logging and there is no roads. And
Right.
so one's a wilderness area and the other one's not, but maybe they should be flipped. Maybe that's a better use of our public lands, but a lot of it's based on historical.
What irritates me is how much forest have you gone in? And you've been in the same forest with us. Maybe not every single one we've been in, but there's logging roads, they're closed. They lock down all that access.
Yeah.
And this is big country we're talking. It's not like I want to, you know.
And that's one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is the scale out here. They're like, oh, yeah, let's close these roads. You know, it's like, well, you just locked off like 6 miles of country. No one's
Yeah.
going to walk 10 miles to get to these
No.
back 6 miles.
And see, me and Alex spent 4 or 5 days in the Black Hills, and they have a ton of roads, but they don't want to put money into them,
Mhm.
and they turn them into four-wheeler trails. And so they're like, because a four-wheeler is I'm convinced a four-wheeler is a lot lower impact than a pickup truck.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
So they have these roads. They're like, we don't want to put it. And a four-wheeler can go through a lot worse road than a pickup can. A four-wheeler really doesn't need much maintenance on the road.
No,
That's-
it doesn't.
Right.
So I
They're
understand.
meant to drive off road.
So
Right.
Really?
I understand you. Well, that's frowned upon nowadays. Like, I understand you don't want to put any money in this road, but let four-wheelers drive on it.
Well, that's one thing. We had a lot of roads closed where we traditionally had drove four-wheelers. A lot of roads, miles and miles of roads. And one of the things we heard from the Forest Service closing these roads was it's to prevent erosion, and it's also we don't want to put money in the roads. It's a safety hazard. We'll put a sign up that says unmaintained road, travel at your own risk. I've
Boom,
seen
done.
those signs.
It's called minimum maintenance road.
Yeah.
Where the state's like, we're not doing anything here.
Yep. be careful and leave it fucking open.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of Forest Service roads where the grass grows back over. And there's a few four-wheelers that go back there. And it's not, I think the biggest issue is they're pushing everybody. They're pushing all the motorized users onto less and less land.
Yeah.
And the number of motorized users has gone up significantly.
Well,
in the
now,
past year.
like, what do you have against four-wheelers? Well, they're heavy. If it's muddy, they rut the road. Okay, so let's buy an electric bike. Well, it's got a motor on it, so
now
technically it's
classified.
motorized. So no, you still can't have it. All right, so I can have a pedal bike. Well, on some roads, all right, so I got to buy a fucking horse to travel this stuff because people do not understand the scale. I think a great grasp of this concept was I was listening to another podcast, hunting podcast, and he was talking about hunting on this thing he called the mountain. It was back east, the mountain. He had shot a white-tailed deer out of his stand, and he was tracking it, how long he walked, blah, blah, blah. And come to find out at the end of the story, I have ideas of grandeur in my head. He was on a section, a mile-by-mile section, and that was big land to him. That was a big chunk of land to hunt. And I'm thinking, like, I've gone stuff where I walk 15, 20 miles before lunch.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
But I think what people don't realize is if you're a non-motorized user, not having a road impacts you.
yeah,
Most people aren't doing these cross-country 150, 100-mile hikes. Most people that go hiking, it's 3-4 miles to a lake or something. So I'm fine with not having the road by the lake. But if you turn what was a 4-mile hike into a 15-mile hike, people aren't enjoying that.
yeah,
Right.
no, and you can't do it in a weekend.
You can't do it in a weekend.
15 miles
Just
a day
limits
is
access to
And
Yeah.
you're putting more people on fewer trailheads that are pushed out of the mountain range. So now you have all that impact because everybody's basically commuting.
and I've seen this firsthand, and I will argue tooth and nail on this. And this is another reason I've seen them close roads is for elk movement and disturbing elk populations, disturbing deer populations.
Which, as somebody who doesn't hunt a whole lot, I usually get a doe tag for deer. But you're going to close this road because you don't want the hunting pressure, which is fine. But guess what? Everybody else who's recreationally using that road is also impacted.
Yes, it is also impacted. But my point going further is, have you ever driven a four-wheeler down a road where there's deer and elk next to it? If you don't stop that four-wheeler, and they can hear you coming, if you don't stop that four-wheeler, a lot of times they just sit and look at you. Now, if you were to walk that road, as soon as they hear you
They're
walking or talking, they're gone. And it's just... There's an impact there that I think's being overlooked. I think people think when they're walking through the woods, it's not impacted
less of
as
an
much.
impact, but it is still an impact.
It is still
And
an impact. And
What level?
I think it scatters game more than at least a four-wheeler. I don't know about vehicles because they're so slow.
Well, and people don't stick to roads.
Yeah, and if you're walking, why
If you're
walk right
walking,
on the road? Yeah,
You can walk wherever
There-
you want.
I will say, I mean, kind of a disclaimer. There are all areas in the winter time where we don't want to disturb elk or deer. You know, their winter ranges. They're fighting for calories and stuff like that. So I'm all for that. But this idea that these roads are eroded and it's pushing game clear out, I think a lot of that's false. I mean, a lot of the roads we've driven on, it's like it's been the same road for 20 years and the same route.
yes,
It's not like it's completely taken out a mountainside.
agreed. The roads are still there.
Yeah.
They're just letting them grow in with trees
You
now.
see that with a lot of logging roads. You see it in the plans. Like I was looking at possibly bidding on a chunk of state land to log. I just want to see what the process was. And you look in and it says, yeah, you can build a road here, here, and here. But when you're done, we want it all seeded back to grass. We want it all returned back, which is fine. But you had a logger coming in and he was building all these roads. He was putting this infrastructure in.
Why not use it?
Yeah, why not use it?
Because the animals use it too.
Animals use
Right.
the roads, yes.
Big time. Animals use those roads. You ever tried to side hill on a mountain and hit an old logging road? And
And
it's
you're
like,
yes.
Thank
it's
God.
heaven.
yeah. So this constant battle, and the worst part is, and I don't have the evidence for this. I haven't done my research. But I just get this feeling that we've got a group of people out east, Washington, D.C. area,
Hey, they pay my paycheck.
that are making these laws and rules and regulations for country. I don't think they fucking understand it all.
The scale.
The scale or
No.
what it is to be out there. All right, no roads open. Go out to eastern Montana in September, early October, and I want you to hike on some of those roads that you've closed.
Right.
Yeah, tell me how you do.
You walk
and how
you
far
walk,
you go.
and you walk.
And you walk and you walk and there's nothing, and the road is dry dust.
I don't know. I think with just the increasing pressure on public lands, because off-road vehicles, ATVs, side-by-sides, that's becoming more prevalent. People are moving out here more, so there's more and more people. Why are we not better utilizing our resources and trying to spread those people out?
Mm-hmm.
Even as Scott
Yeah.
said earlier, where we're condensing this because we're shutting all this down, so we're condensing all these people in this one area, then they have a higher impact. It just doesn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah, somebody calling the shots is not thinking it through. But who knows? It can change. You could get some people in that know what this part of the country's like, and it's big and it's different.
But you
You
also
know?
see that with all the different agencies. Like, there's not a unified. Forest Service does their own thing. BLM does their own thing. State does their own thing. National Parks just doesn't let you do anything.
Yeah, except shoot grizzly bears, right? Oh wait, no, you can't do that. Oh.
Nope. If the bull is
Oh.
going 55 miles an hour and it is attached to a vehicle.
Yeah, it's
So just interesting time that we're living in now.
mhm.
And hopefully this kind of discussion kind of spurs a lot of thoughts in our listeners also, that's like, hey, these issues are going on. Life's changing fast for us. And even within state government of Montana, I'm all for public access. I'm all for business, but there's a balance between who do you elect next,
Yes.
that's going to protect public access, not lock it down, but then also increases business, doesn't lock it down and throw a bunch of government regulations on it.
It's interesting you say that, because red, blue, Republican, Democrat, one thing that sways my vote either way, no party lines, is public access.
Right. Well, that's your life, right?
You got someone on this side maybe wanting to sell off public lands to make a buck. You got someone over here that wants to regulate the shit out of public lands till they're no fun to use.
Right.
None of them are getting my vote. And the shitty part is this is who we have.
Right.
We never get the guy that I'm like, fuck, I can get behind this guy. He's right down the line where I'd like.
Yep.
I'd like to get a public land guy in that is for
That's his
public
issue.
land, but also has that asterisk where he's not restricting agriculture, restricting access, restricting all this stuff,
Right.
but he's not horning it out either. It's done the correct way.
Right.
Because a lot of times, I've been rock climbing in places where like the easement is literally just a walking path that somebody, I think they spent $20,000 on this, but somebody put the money up and they got this. Like, that's all you need. You want somebody that just goes in and does the bare minimum
Yeah.
to get you access to this land. Because there's been a lot of proposals where people are trying to trade checkerboard land around. And
Right.
you go, there's different ways of doing this, but different groups get affected.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it's checkerboarded, you have the people that want the mountain lakes, they got land they can go see, and the guys that want the elk hunting or the deer hunting, they have the lower land, which is way more productive, and where the animals you're usually at, they want to hunt that. And so it's how you balance when you're trading everything around.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll give you this rocky mountainous land because it connects with all this forest, but we want this section where it's better hunting, better farming land. So it's a balance. I think a couple of years ago there was a mountain range in Montana where that was discussed about trading high mountainous land for kind of lower, more productive land.
And what do you do there?
Well, as a hunter, it's like I can't really draw mountain goat tags, so I'd rather hunt the lower land where there's a
I
larger
agree as a hunter
opportunity.
there, but there was also high finance corporation trying to put houses up on
Right.
top of a mountain as a little resort town. Like, that's shitty.
Yeah.
Trying to get leases from Forest Service to cross the fucking, or easements to cross the Forest Service land, put a fucking road clear up into a mountain lake that is a hike to
So
only
where's
lake.
that line at? Because then all of a sudden you're saying, hey, the forest shouldn't do this.
Explain that to me. So the forest. So if you have a piece of landlocked land and you get a lawyer and you spend 20, 30,000, you can force a road through.
Mm-hmm.
The Forest Service can't do that to private.
Well, I don't think it's equitable because at the end of the day, the Forest Service is the government, which is there to serve the people, not screw over the people. It's not the Forest Service versus the people. What I don't want to see is a private corporation or private billionaire come in, invest a ton of money, and build a ski resort down in the top of some pristine mountains.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's that balance there because technically more people be able to use it, or is it a select number of people?
Is people don't even mind when they do the development. People don't even mind the development. Say they put a ski resort in or something. It's all the other stuff that goes with it. So say you put a ski lift in and maybe you put the hotel or whatever. It's all the houses that go around it. It's that they chase all the locals out. That's what people hate. They run up the price.
Yeah. And then you got a hotel on the top of these pristine mountains dumping sewage water into where?
And they're building these houses or these things on pieces of land that shouldn't be built on.
Yeah, I firmly believe that a lot of the tops of our mountains need to be preserved as a place for people to go all the way to the top. You know, and that's kind of about those mountains. That's if you want to put a four-wheeler trail in, you want to improve access like that. I don't care if people drive up there. I don't want a fucking economy.
You don't want
up there.
people owning up there.
You want people to have like temporary possession, right? You're up there on a four-wheeler, you're camping. This is kind of your spot for these 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you like shit in the bushes. I don't want to fucking.
Why is that your highlight? I see what you mean. There's not an enemy's.
There's not a hotel dumping
right
150 rooms of sewage into the mountain creek.
So there's a nuisance. There's somebody up there misbehaving. It's just a temporary thing.
Exactly. Somebody's, it's not some landowner blocking people out. Oh, you can't be on my ski resort. This is my mountain. Blah, blah. This is my mountain lake.
Because people do a
Blah,
lot
blah,
of,
blah.
like you hear people locking gates that they shouldn't lock or.
Oh, that's a big issue in Montana.
Yeah.
I've had some people try that.
Because there's a
I
lot
think
of.
our governor tried that actually back in the day when he was.
Because there's a lot of land that to get to, there's cattle gates. Because if it's Forest
Yep.
Service or BLM,
Mhm.
they lease the land out for grazing rights. And it's common courtesy. You find a closed gate, you go through it, you shut the gate.
Yep.
But some people will put locks on it because they don't want you going to the back BLM quarter that's next to their private.
Oh no, I totally agree. And we're pretty on top of that. If we see something that's sketchy, and we can prove, if we see something that's sketchy, we research it.
right
If it is not right, we'll call it in. It's not
Because
even
what
worth
gets
it.
sketchy is there's a lot of places that I've been where you're driving on it's an easement.
Mm-hmm.
You got 3 or 4 mile drive through private to get to the mountains or to get to wherever you're going. And that's where it gets sketchy.
Oh yeah, on an easement. Yeah, private on both sides of the road, next 5 miles.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I'm like, thank you for letting us through here. Always respect that landowner that's allowing that easement to go through. It's when you go to pull up to a gate and it's locked and you're like, this is a county road or this is
Yeah.
a National Forest Service road. There shouldn't be a lock on it. And that's happened to me. That happened to us elk hunting. Well, I think it was either me and you or Shane and I. And we drove up to a gate kind of at evening. I want to go glass another bowl. And there's locks on it. Well, it's on National Forest. Like, Well, I went and looked at the chain, and what they had done is they put locks through the chain.
make it look
and
like
just
it was locked.
made it look like it was locked. So I went up to it and undid the chain and went in, And I wasn't going to call that in or remove it because they didn't technically lock it. And
Yeah.
Joe Schmo that doesn't check,
looks at it.
oh, they've locked it. I'm not going in there. So, but
I
yeah.
know.
I think the biggest thing is we live in a world. I grew up watching Westerns. I grew up wanting to be in the Wild West, the nature, all that stuff. And we're going in a world where that's going away
Fast.
really fast here. to the point where it's like I want to move somewhere like Argentina or something that's way
Back to the
undeveloped.
wild.
Yeah. So my biggest issue or my biggest quest right now is how do you cope with it and how do you still be happy watching what you love disappear? Like appreciate it while you have it instead of just being sick and depressed watching it go away.
All right, here's my plan. Start a nonprofit preserving the prairie butterflies that you mentioned earlier.
All right.
Get a bunch of money.
What do we
funnel
call
in.
it?
Prairie butterflies.
Yeah, straightforward. People need to know. I mean, there's no easy cure for people like you or I, right?
Mm-mm.
And it makes you sick, and it's like,
But it'll ruin your mindset. How do you get up every morning, read some of the shit that's going on in the news? I just read an article the other day. There's a lawsuit over people trapping coyotes that's illegally affecting the grizzly bear population. What has happened in this world? There's fucking coyotes from Alaska to Florida, and somebody trapping them is hurting the grizzly bear population.
I would like to see what correlation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just mentioning it. I'm not.
But it's a lot more centralized decision making.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, you had all these smaller ranches and all these families doing things, and your neighborhood kind of kept you in line. So
Yep.
someone was doing something that everybody else didn't like. They thought it was unethical, or they thought you were leaving traps and not checking them, or whatever. They kind of self-enforce those rules.
agreed. We lost the community.
Yeah.
We're globalized and nobody cares about anyone. It's all very greedy, and we're watching this resource get hoarded away by rich politicians to their rich billionaire friends and to rich corporations. And if it's not hoarded away to the rich guys, it's given to groups that lock that shit down with so much regulations. If you fart in the wind on it, you could get a ticket, you know?
Well, methane emissions.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's this like one little fig eating aphid that's only native to this creek bottom. And so you're not allowed to walk on the grass in case you step on them and then they're extinct. You know, like, Jesus.
There has to
criminy.
be a balance there, but it's kind of growing up how he did, where we're outdoors doing things. It kind of sucks because, like, even with my kid, it's like I'm imagining in the future when I'm taking him out, and I'm like, oh, we used to be able to go here. Or
How do you think Dad
we used
feels?
to- Yeah,
They
just-
used to be driving down a highway. You see a coyote out in the field, you would pull in the burrow ditch and fucking shoot it.
Yeah,
And if the rancher saw you, he'd be like, thanks, you got one of the coyotes.
right.
Or you'd go, hey, can I go deer hunting there, please? Yeah, sure, I don't care. They're over the hill.
Yeah, snow.
Four-wheelers could drive anywhere before they had laws that shut all that down. Game, then it was, you have to stay on roads except for game retrieval. You
Which
can-
I think's a valid. Like, why did we get away from that?
There are still areas like that.
we got away from it because the four-wheelers are getting hot and starting fires in the tall grass.
I guess that
I think it's a fire thing for sure.
makes sense.
But
I mean, there's a lot of.
I've
stupid
packed out a
people.
lot of shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
I could get a four-wheeler in here.
That's not that steep a grade.
Yeah, I can
make
get a
it.
four-wheeler in here. I would be a lot more successful as a hunter if I could get a four-wheeler in here.
Key to happiness is you shoot the deer on the hill, above the road.
Yeah, that's a
Never
good plan.
don't shoot the one down in the gully.
My problem is the big ones
Yeah,
usually never where
It's
I want
like
it
4
to be.
miles in the back
Yeah.
country.
There he
Or
is. He's
snow.
2.5 miles away through the spotty scope.
Yeah.
It's going to take us 4 hours to get to him. Let's go.
We get to him. Not big enough.
Nah, not big enough. Or the private line's here,
Yeah.
public's here, and he's standing right here. on
More
the
likely
private.
that's the.
So I want to know the guy that goes to every deer once the buck hits like 2 or 3 years old and hands them the map. He goes, "Here's where you stand."
Yeah, stay on. Well, the reason they got that big or that old is because they stayed
know,
there. Yeah. The ones that didn't got shot. But yeah, it'll be an exciting summer, guys. I'm excited about it. I don't want to bring the tone down with all the stuff that's going on. It's a constant battle. We need to talk about it. It needs to be in public discussion. That's kind of what this podcast is evolving into too, is talking about these issues. We need to get it out. We need to talk about it. It needs to be on the forefront of your outdoors minds. And, you know, I would like to think I'm right on everything, but there's probably some views I have that if you guys called or written and gave me your opinion and your point of view on it might change,
Right.
you know?
More information, but just starting that discussion, I think, is a huge, crucial step in the right
Yep.
direction.
I agree.
Because for so long, it's like mindset was like, just put my head down, get through it, ignore it.
Yeah.
And it's coming to the point where you can't do that anymore. You're
The
gonna have
silent
to,
majority.
stand up and fight for what you.
Do you think
Or
those
you-
roads would have been closed if there was a group of outdoorsmen that are like, no, you're not closing roads. Let's get some studies
Right.
done on these elk
Right.
populations and deer populations getting hazed out of this area because
Right.
of this road. Hell no, it wouldn't. What happened is they closed the road and enough guys that are like, the silent majority went, they closed another road. That sucks. That sucks. That sucks. Well, you're going to wake up one day and they're all going to be closed to
Yeah, 'cause-
hike in
Because
only.
you can't go them like, hey, there's 100 roads in this area. Or say there's 1,000 or 500 miles of roads in this area. Pick the 30 you think would do the best good, right? Because it's a diminishing return.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these decisions are just so blanketed, just
Yep. Close the road.
That's a
Rolled out.
well way to put it, just blanketed.
Mm-hmm.
Because every area is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the government doesn't have the funding or the time, but it's blanket administrations, right? That make all these changes that don't really matter to people in Washington, but they
there's-
matter a hell of a lot.
but there's a
to
lot
me.
of hidden motivations on changes. You'll
Yes.
see a group that's fighting for grizzly bears or they're fighting for whatever. But you look behind it, they really want something else. But
Yep.
they're using this,
To get somewhere.
they're using some other push to get what they want.
American Prairie Reserve. Prime example of that. Yeah. You think they're cool now. It sounds all great. They're bringing back the prairie, if they are. I don't know if you can even.
It's already there. It's the same as it's always been.
But what are they going to be like in 5 years? What are they going to be like in 10 years?
Mhm.
Like, I just don't trust
You
them.
think
at
they're
all.
bad. You look at the Sierra Club, what they own, or the Nature Conservancy.
Yep.
They own a lot of land that not open to the public, not open to hunting. They do pay their taxes though, so I give them respect for that.
Well, at least they do that. But yeah, I think the summer's going to be fun. We got a big
Yeah.
trip coming up. We're going to be fishing. We're going to be using the public land while we still got it.
Yep.
They did just turn one of the rivers in Montana to pack out your own shit, and they removed all the toilets,
Vault toilets.
the vault toilets, and it's like, I
That
hate to
sucks.
see
I
that.
do
It
too.
sucks. And on the float we're going on, we thought it might be the same way. And I was like, I'm not pick a different river. I'm not carrying shit out for 4 days. It's ridiculous. But you get an area that's pressured enough. There's human shit everywhere. You have
to do something. Yeah.
so I hate the rule, but I understand the rule.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go there. Like, I watch people on the Appalachian Trail. What are the two trails to hike in the United States?
Well, there's three: Appalachian, Continental Divide, and the Pacific Crest.
Okay. I thought that would be cool to do. And you could do it over a lifetime. Like, hike this 20 miles, and then the next year hike these next 30 or whatever till you got them done. Appalachian Trail. Everybody, I'm watching videos on it all stuff. They're like, and this is my poop Ziploc bag. And I'm like, nope. Does a bear shit in the woods? Because I do.
If I did that, I'd be eating like straight peanut butter, constipated up,
Yeah,
carry that stuff
I just-
internally.
God, what? But I get it because it's such a tourist trap now. So many people hike that
That
trail.
impact's starting to make a difference.
Yeah, that's
Well,
like
they all get sick with what is it? Giardia?
I don't know if Giardia is real.
I agree with you.
Do you?
I think Giardia is poor washing of hands. I don't think you get it from like streams. Rivers.
No, I don't think it's like a real organism.
It's a fake one.
I think
I don't know about this.
No, hear me out.
I'm
Hear
gonna
me
have
out.
to do some research.
You'll have to do some research. Here's my. It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's something I heard that I'm just regurgitating. There was a vet talking about Giardia and how it's kind of like gingivitis, where like it's a made up term,
Coin term.
a coined term, and gingivitis isn't actually a thing. It's not a real thing. It's just a good coined term that they can say brush your teeth so you don't get gingivitis. Oh, no one wants gingivitis. What is It's nothing. Giardia is the same way. I was listening to a vet talk about it, and it's like,
I don't know enough to call BS on that, but I'll have to do some
I
research.
bet you're
before I-
worried about gingivitis too. You
Yeah.
fucking drink from that funnel, boy. But
And they
yeah,
didn't
and you
walk
might
on the
call
moon.
bullshit. I probably have people watch this. They're like, Jared's a fucking dumbass.
Well,
but,
they think that daily.
you know, you can find anything on the internet. I won't get into how the Earth's flat right now, but Giardia
the ice
doesn't
wall
exist.
is real.
What?
The ice wall is real.
The ice wall is real. We should get a shirt that says that ice wall is real.
That's what we need.
Yeah, just
Damn.
bring the flat earthers in. No, but
I mean, with all these issues going on, kind of ending on a positive note, I'm thankful we live where we do. I'm thankful we have the systems in place that are fighting for public access and our ability to live our lives the way we want. You know, I mean, America is a great country, and it's 4th of July week. I just kind of appreciate that more when I'm out doing something fun.
and we will be doing something fun, and we are working this week, and this weekend we're gonna have quite a bit of fun. Us three, and then there's another guy, Andre.
We got to get him on the podcast.
We do. He's a character. And if we give him a little bit of our special water here too, he'll be a really, really good
really
character.
animated.
Yeah. But as we're preparing for this, guys, and with the wedding and everything, we're going to keep getting our episodes out. Tune in. Let us know what you want to hear about. Give us some feedback. We'd really appreciate it.
Yep.
But
Be sure to check out the website, TikTok,
check out
Instagram,
our website. Check out TikTok.
also on YouTube.
YouTube. I'm trying to...
Yeah, emphasize. You're like the hype man.
I'm the hype man. Yeah,
there
the
you go.
hip-hop hype man. Do it again. Let's try it again. Take
Instagram,
2. Instagram.
YouTube,
YouTube.
TikTok.
TikTok.
While we still have TikTok,
Why we still have TikTok.
limited edition.
The limited edition.
All right, I think that's enough for tonight.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and as
As
always,
we'll be surviving the week to live on the weekends.